This program is brought to you by the partners of A Rood Awakening International. Help others find truth. Support A Rood Awakening International today.
You'll never guess what they found. Or maybe you would. It's been disputed for decades, but now that dispute is about to end. Noah's Ark is real. It's been found, and you can even participate in a dig to prove it. Because it's the end of the sixth day, the sun is set, and this is Shabbat Night Live.
As they take this message out into the world.
Well, Shabbat Shalom to our fans. Welcome to Shabbat Night Live with Michael Rood. Hey, we are approaching the day of first fruits. We're halfway through, or more than halfway through, the Feast of Unleavened Bread, and that means first fruits is this weekend on Sunday. And how do we know that? We know it because of the astronomically and agriculturally corrected biblical Hebrew calendar. There you see it on your screen there, or we're right at the end of the week, and first fruits is coming up on Sunday. And here to explain with me what that's all about is the Chief Operating Officer of A Rood Awakening International, Ted Clayton. Welcome, Ted.
Thank you, Scott, for having me on board today.
Certainly. Yeah, you know, first fruits is always a big thing around here at Rood Awakening.
You know, the history of first fruits is so spectacular because back in the day in Israel, the first fruits offering was the first fruits of the barley as it was delivered, and it's just an incredible story. Scott, tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, it's the whole reason we had to have a 13th month this year. And
That's right.
This is really what it comes down to. It's not really about Passover, it's about the first fruits.
Right.
Because if that barley is not aviv, you know, it's sort of half ready, half not ready, you know, that's really the layman's way of explaining it, then they know that in 2 weeks' time, right after the Passover, it's not going to be ready for first fruits. Now, why is that important? Well, because first fruits is the first harvest of the year, and that is the first offering to Yehovah in the form of a wave offering, and so they have to make a loaf out of the barley that has to be ready, so they had to leave a 13th month this year because it wasn't ready. And so biblical times that would have a lot more significance with the temple than it does now, but still, that first fruits offering was a faith offering.
Yes.
Because what they did was they didn't take any for themselves. They didn't make any bread and go, okay, good, we're good for a few weeks.
Right.
No, they took that first harvest and they made the loaf, and the first loaf went to Yehovah.
Right.
And so it was a faith offering to show that even if nothing else comes, like if hail comes the next day and destroys the rest of the crop,
wipes out the entire crop.
Right. They know that Yehovah is going to take care of them. And that's what it was. It was like, okay, God, here you go. We don't know what's going to happen, but we trust you. And that can be observed today as well.
Well, and as we observe it today, we observe it as our first fruits offering to the Almighty in a way of money.
Right.
And that we actually give the Almighty our best from the beginning. Now, how does that equate to what we have done here with the harvest? Well, okay, no one is guaranteed anything, right?
Right.
So you're supposed to give your best now because nothing is guaranteed for the future. So what we have done here is equate the first fruits harvest with the first fruits offering that you can give. And if you're going to plant seed in good soil, whether it's this ministry or another ministry that you choose. But we really would love for you to plant your seed here with us here at A Rood Awakening, because it's very important for us. At the end of the year, we go through knowing how much we can budget for our upcoming television. At this time, the offering of first fruits, now we can budget for our operations and everything else that we're doing. So we just ask that you give your best now to A Rood Awakening International and Michael's ministry.
And you know, people might say, oh, you're taking this out of context. You're taking it from the biblical and making it into something about money. Well, not really, because back in the day, if people wanted to have money, those who were farmers, that was their money. That's what they brought to the market, and that's what they sold.
Yes.
And so really, like you said, Ted, you don't know if you're going to lose your job tomorrow. No. You don't know if something's going to happen where you have a natural disaster where your home is destroyed and you lose everything.
Your health.
Anything like that. And so, yeah, it's really important to give that first fruits offering, not necessarily for us, but just to show for yourself, to show that, okay, Yehovah, I trust you.
Yes.
And like you said, it's really important for the ministry because we can plan.
Yes.
And coming up here in a little while, in May, June, July, when summer comes, it's just human nature. People forget about ministry.
Right.
We all do it. But you know what? This is a great opportunity to talk about it now, to say that we really need your support through the year. Because like you said, Ted, the expenses don't stop.
No, indeed. And, you know, people are often planning different adventures for the summertime. They plan vacations, they plan other expenditures, and oftentimes ministries are sometimes left behind on that. So as you give your first fruits right now, you're giving it not only to A Root Awakening, but you're giving it to the Almighty so that you can rest assured that the Almighty is going to take care of you. If you do have, let's say that you are laid off at work, let's say that you do have health problems, or let's say another emergency takes place, the Almighty, Yehovah, will take care of you. And you are just celebrating that with your first fruits offering.
Right. It's not like you're paying off God
No.
and say, well, if I give to you, you'll take care of me. It's more of a thank you.
Okay, Lord, if I'm going to give you this $1,000, I need you to guarantee me now that, no,
Right.
That's not how that works. You're doing it by faith. And just remember this, folks, faith and fear cannot dwell in the same place.
That's good.
So you're either going to live in fear or you're going to live in faith. We choose here at A Root Awakening to live in faith and that the Almighty is going to take care of us, whatever come what may.
Right, and Michael's a real good example of that. And speaking of Michael, one of the best ways to ensure that, you might say, well, gosh, I hope I remember to give to Root Awakening, but is there an easier way to do this so I don't forget?
Absolutely.
Our love gift is actually the best way to do that.
Absolutely.
Because, I mean, you've heard us talk about this for a couple of weeks now, where we have the Sword of Division. This is Michael's new teaching on the Book of Acts.
Unbelievable teaching.
Yeah, and before we get into how you can have this every month, Ted, real quick, you had a conversation with Michael today.
I did.
Tell us about the Book of Acts, why he feels so strong about this.
Well, Michael feels so strongly about the Book of Acts because he believes that this love gift teaching, this Book of Acts teaching that he is doing, is a culmination of all of his teachings culminated right here within this teaching of the Book of Acts. You know, the biggest problem, Michael says, with the Book of Acts is people typically don't understand it appropriately. And that's because you have to have the background to be able to understand the Book of Acts. So in Michael's teachings, Michael has taught on things such as the Torah. He's taught on the Book of the Judges. He's taught on the Gospels. And all of those teachings now have kind of laid a brick by brick by brick to help him get through this teaching with the Book of Acts. Folks, if there's any teachings that you need to get from A Root Awakening International, it's this love gift teaching on the Book of Acts.
Wow. Okay, and it's really not just this month. He's been going for several months. He's going to go for a few more.
Yes.
And the best way to do that through the summer and not forget about Root Awakening is to do what we call a recurring love gift.
Absolutely.
So when you go to the love gift page, which is found at monthlylovegift.com, you can either choose just to get this month, and that'd be great. Thank you for doing so.
Yes, indeed.
And if you'd like to get a recurring gift, which means you just sign up once and we'll send you the love gift every month.
Yes.
And that means either just the teaching or the teaching and the special gift that we offer every month, you can get that too. And that ensures that you won't forget, and we appreciate anything you can do for us, and we thank you for remembering us through the summer. Now, coming up is episode 2 of The Truth of Noah's Ark with Andrew Jones and Mary Nell Lee and Randall Lee and Michael, and they're going to talk about the truth of Noah's Ark and actually an opportunity for you to participate in a dig at Noah's Ark. No kidding. And here's more about that love gift and the recurring gift. Take a look.
Stay right here.
In this month's Love Gift teaching, the apostles have been teaching the message of Yeshua all over the map. As new apostles, they are still navigating the ministry that has been given to them by Yeshua in the Great Commission.
They had no idea when the Holy Spirit was sending them on this mission that they were going to be embroiled in such a demonic attack, and that they were going to be victors.
In Sword of Division, Michael Rood breaks down the ministry of Paul even further, looking at how he persevered through trial after trial while taking his message to the world. While the Pharisees remained determined to keep Israel in the bondage of Pharisaical law, Paul and the other apostles were determined to show the world another way.
Yeshua is accused of breaking the Sabbath. He is not breaking the Sabbath. It's the rabbinic Jews that are accusing him of it because he is breaking their rules and regulations that they made up, which they are not allowed to do.
Sword of Division is an exclusive teaching available only in April. It's a gift from Michael Rood to you for your love gift donation of just $50. Or with a love gift donation of $100 or more, we'll send you Sword of Division plus a sword and shield pendant on a braided leather necklace. Get the Sword of Division teaching and the sword and shield pendant with braided leather necklace, a constant reminder of God's protection in the midst of our trials.
The signs and wonders happen so that people's attention is brought to the fact that the words of these brothers, Paul and Barnabas, that they are the truth, they're to be listened to, because nobody can do the miracles that they are doing except God is with them.
Call 800-788-7887 to make your love gift donation now and receive the Sword of Division collection, or visit our website at monthlylovegift.com. Hurry, offer ends April 30th.
The traditions of modern Judaism remind us of what we did during the temple period. Not what we did, but they remind us of what we did. But the followers of Yeshua also have some other traditions, some other things that are reminders of what has been accomplished for us. They are reminders of what goes back long before the temple period, and it reminds us of what happened the very year that Yeshua was crucified and resurrected. At the Last Supper that Yeshua had with his disciples, the Greek scriptures tell us that he took artone. He took leavened bread and broke it. Of course, the English, the Greek, and all scriptures tell us that this Last Supper was before the Feast of Passover. And the following morning, the Pharisees refused to go into Pilate's judgment hall because they didn't want to be defiled so that they could eat the Passover. This is not the Passover meal. And every time we serve bread and wine gives us the opportunity, as Yeshua says, as often as you do this in remembrance of me. And so, as Yeshua said, this represents my body, which will be broken for you. This represents my shed blood. And he spoke the prayer that the Melech Tzedek shared with Abraham thousands of years ago. Baruch atah Yehovah Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pri hagafen. Blessed are you, Yehovah our Elohim, King of the universe, creator of the fruit of the vine. And Yeshua took bread, and he blessed the Most High, saying, Baruch atah Yehovah Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Blessed are you, Yehovah our Elohim, King of the universe, who brings forth bread from the earth. As often as you do this, we do this in remembrance of him. L'chaim. Welcome back to the continuing saga of Noah's Ark. This is part of the greatest story never told. We have with us Andrew Jones. We have with us also Randall Lee, who the two of them are going to be going back to Mount Ararat this summer. And at the end of this series, you two are going to be allowed to register if you would like to be part of this archaeological dig. This is the breaking news that's coming out of Turkey right now. And we have with us, along with Andrew and Randall, we have Mary Nell Wyatt Lee, who was right there from the very beginning of this. And Mary Nell, Randall, Andrew, welcome back to Shabbat Night Live. And please continue telling us the story. Take us back to this boat-shaped object that caught Ron Wyatt's attention back when he read the Life magazine.
I'd be glad to. Well, just recounting a little bit, this is what Ron saw when he saw the ark for the first time. And I call it the ark because you'll see later why we can firmly call it the ark. This is what he saw. And then in 1978, after an earthquake, Ron returned in 79 and saw that the earth had dropped away from the sides, revealing this very strong looking shape that looked like a shipwreck on the side of a mountain. In 1985, he had several people working with him who were interested in the boat shape. One of them was Dr. John Baumgartner, who had done the testing on the very first artifact. And then he also had another man by the name of David Fasselt who had come along. So in 1984, let me back up, in 1984, Ron had obtained metal detectors donated by White's Electronics, and he was able to find a pattern of metal lines in this shape. And this caused him to think that the structure, a lot of it was still there. So Dr. Baumgartner and Ron did these very detailed metal detector tests where they would find a metal reading and mark it with a rock, and then they would connect these readings. And what happened after a while is it revealed a pattern of metal in this 515-foot boat-shaped object. And because Ron believed that the ark had become impaled on a rock, they found that this certainly appeared to be the case because you can see the metal lines go around this penetration of a large rock intrusion.
Okay, so that is what led him to believe that that it been impaled as it slid down the mountain in a mud flow then.
Yes, he believed that's what had happened.
Okay.
And then 2020 came out and filmed, and they used this photo in their filming, and Ron was able to appear on this show with Tom Gerald. And that captured a lot of people's attention because the evidence is very overwhelming, but it was about to get even more overwhelming.
Yeah, 2020 didn't scoff at this. They treated this very seriously and helped to promote this and move it out into the public discourse.
Mm-hmm. And so when Ron met David Fasselt was a marine salvage expert, and he was a treasure hunter. And this was just what was needed because he had all of the equipment. And David, when he first saw this, he said, "Oh my gosh, it's a shipwreck on the side of a mountain." He knew what he was looking at. And so Dave knew how to work subsurface interface radar, and Ron was able to borrow some from someone that he knew. In fact, this company bought it just for Ron to use. And when they ran this radar, they found that it showed a pattern of internal readings. And Ron was able to later, after that, do radar over the entire ship. And he was, what he found was a structure that was collapsed in places, but definitely bore the shape of a ship with bulkheads. And here you can see the readings showing along the same lines that the metal detector showed. And here is the final internal structure as revealed by the radar. And what's amazing is it did show that the bottom of the boat was missing. Just that section in the middle for about 120 feet. And what you're going to see in a future program is going to be even more exciting because it is going to confirm everything that we're seeing here.
So we've got new technology that has been recently used on this that has more than confirmed this then. And so, Andrew, okay, I promised I wouldn't say anything about this. It's been eating away at me for a couple months now. He made me promise. And so, okay, by the end of this, though, you're going to show us that evidence that really turned the Turkish government around, right?
Yes, we are. We're going to show that.
Okay,
It's
all right.
very exciting.
Okay, I'm not going to make you say anything yet. Okay, continue on, Mary. Now.
Okay. Well, these right here, what you're seeing here, are the original lines that Ron had first found with the metal detectors, and this is the radar confirmation of those same lines, showing them with radar. In other words, we have radar confirming what metal
this
detectors.
ground-penetrating radar.
Yes.
So it's really thumping the ground and then the echo back
Yes.
To reveal what is there subterranean.
Exactly. And so Ron took the radar scans up to Hudson, New Hampshire. Let's see, was it New Hampshire? I can't remember exactly where it was. To the company that actually made the radar. And Joe Rosetta, who at that time was their president, looked at, vice president, excuse me, but he looked at the scans and he said, you'd never see anything like this in natural geology. Some human made this structure, whatever it is. Yeah. And he's seen no telling how many scans. He knew this was showing something that was built by humans. And they did an article in their newspaper up there. But the excitement was that we were now beginning to understand what the structure was. Ron was. It's funny because Ron understood all along, I do believe. I believe that God had opened his mind to where he understood these things. And when he would look at this, he could see exactly what this was, that it's a deck joist, that it was broken. And so as we look at this picture of the ark right now, you'll see a little green section on the lower left right there. And what that is revealing by radar, it revealed, was that these were posts that were holding up decks.
Now, point out that those of just a scientific mind can relate to this, but the spiritual mind can appreciate what Ron would see. And that Ron would look at this, and it's as if by revelation he could see into the earth. He could see what was really there so that then it could be brought out. And, people that do not believe in the spiritual world, that there's anything supernatural, would deny that. But that's why we have scientific evidence to back up everything that he was seeing in the spirit and also physically in the earth.
I believe that's to be the fact, because Ron understood things that I couldn't understand how he understood them, really and truly. But, and then something that was not related to anything, he wouldn't have a clue. He couldn't find the potatoes in the grocery store. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding.
From a woman who would know.
But God did this. When it came time for the Turks to make their declaration, they sent their own team in, and they did their own research, and they finally concluded this is a ship. I mean, it's on the side of a mountain, and what else can it be but Noah's Ark? And so here's the official Turkish newspaper. I don't know I think the translation's down at the bottom. But it's very strange that it never hit the news here. It never...
Yeah, well, this would be evidence that the whole evolution fairy tale that is being promoted through the Department of Re-Education, which denies that there is any God or God-given rights, this whole thing has to be kept quiet.
Yes.
And even though this is well known in Turkey, yet it can't be broadcast through our not fake news, it's propaganda news. It's a crime what is going on in our education system and our news media. But in Turkey, they know about this.
Yeah, they do. And these are just some pictures when Ron met with the governor of the region. And here's some photos from the dedication ceremony, and Ron was made the guest of honor. And it was a wonderful thing. Now, a very exciting thing That's about to happen right here.
Yeah.
The governor of the region, he wanted Ron to bring the radar down to the site and show all of the officials and dignitaries that were there. And none of the cameramen or newsmen or anyone except for TRT, which is Turkish radio and television, they were there. And you can see the man over there. Ron employed the radar, and he found something. And here you can see the radar scan, and if you'll look up there, when he showed that to the governor told a soldier who was there, he says, dig right there. Ron had never been able to dig a thing on the side, ever.
It wouldn't allow him to excavate at all.
No, not at all.
They're protecting it again.
Right.
Yep.
And so when they dug, this is what they found. And it looks exactly like a piece of timber. It's very heavy. We couldn't bring it with us because it weighs 37 pounds, and they wouldn't allow us to bring it.
I was hoping you were going to bring this. I have not seen this, I guess the last time, in your home
in our
20 years ago, and I was hoping you were going to bring this because this is so magnificent. A specimen.
Well, we would love to come back and we'll drive.
Okay, all right. If you come back and bring this piece, we'll do this, some more of this again.
Well, I mean, that's the only way we could do it.
But you did bring some stuff with you. Maybe we'll
did.
get to that
We're
in a little
getting
bit.
to that.
But tell us about this piece because what they did, the sampling on this is incredible.
It really is because when you look at this, you can tell by looking at it that it's a piece of wood that's fossilized and it's broken off on the end. You can see the one on the left is the part that was face up. That would have been where they walked. On the other side is the underside where it was face down. Now we did some very good high definition photos of it, but you can see here it has been tested. Yeah. And we'll get to that in just a moment, but here is when right after they found that deck timber, he was congratulated, and he brought it right home. And
they gave it to him, didn't they?
They gave it to him, and the governor told him to bring it home and have it tested. And Ron was so taken aback. He said, well, why would you allow me to bring it? And they said, because if you give it to our universities here, it'll disappear and we'll never see it again. That's what he said.
And now the whole world gets to see it because Ron brought it back.
That's right.
Yeah.
This is definitely God arranged. And so the analysis was done by Galbraith Labs in Knoxville. And the important thing, I mean, it consists of a large number of different, elements. But the important part was that it contained 0.71% organic carbon.
There it is.
Amen. It was
standing ovation.
Yes.
That's it. Organic carbon. This is not a rock. This is petrified. It's been replaced by minerals, and that's what the petrification process is. But this was growing at one time.
Yes, it was.
And it was part of the ark.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so on a later trip after that, I had Ron pose there while the hole was still in the ground. He said they found it at about 36 inches. And so it's been filled in a little bit, but there he sits right where that was dug up. And when we had it tested, you can see that it is laminated wood. Yeah. It's approximately that thick. And what you're looking at in there is at least 5 layers of wood, with the internal wood being very thick, very dense.
Yeah, in real life, it is so obvious. The photograph is good, but when you see it in real life, if you come back and bring this with you, we have to be able to open the doors and let people come in and see this, okay?
Absolutely.
That's what we'll do. So we'll make it a big deal, all right? So this is such a treasure. I mean, to be able to hold this in your hands and to see this and to see the wood, the gophering, the laminating that is done on this. Absolutely fantastic. Beautiful.
And this is just a photo showing, you can see in that little photo down at the bottom, that was one of the very first things that he had found on the side of the ship.
And it also has a square titanium nail
I noticed that.
Yeah.
I noticed the head of that nail is very small, relatively small, but there it is, right in the surface. Yeah.
And Ron, when in 1991, Ron and his group finally had gotten permission to excavate, and they were waiting for the weekend because it was a holiday, and they decided to go to South Central Turkey, and they were kidnapped. But the bad news was that the excavation was put off. The funder who was going to pay for the dig, they, canceled out. But Ron got to go on CNN and tell about.
Now, he was run through the mountains of Ararat for, what is it, like 41 days, was it? Do I remember that right?
21 days.
21 days, okay.
Yes. But it was a terrible ordeal. He couldn't get warm after he got home.
Yeah.
It was pretty bad. And after that, I didn't get to go over as much anymore. He was he became kind of paranoid about things. But.
Yeah, I understand the State Department actually pulled the helicopters out. They said no one has ever come back alive from the Kurds in that kind of situation, and they basically left him for dead.
Well, they didn't. I can tell you this: the State Department didn't do anything. However, we had a friend by the name of Mark Wynn, who was a police officer who trained commandos overseas, and he had a direct line to a general, an American general, out in the field, and I was getting reports every day of what was going on. That was a miracle.
Wow.
That was a miracle, because Mark lives in Nashville, and he, that was a miracle, but it tore our family apart because my daughter Amanda, she was 16, about to turn 17, and she couldn't handle it. It was her senior year, and she decided she was going to finish her school year with her dad because it was very stressful.
Oh, I would
but
imagine.
Amanda loved Ron, and it had nothing. It wasn't that. It was just the stress of the situation.
Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're getting a glimpse into Ron Wyatt's life, Mary Nell's life, the people that have been involved in Noah's Ark. And this is not a fairy tale. This isn't some armchair scoffer sitting back making comments on YouTube. This is the real stuff, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be back in just a minute with the crew, and we're going to continue to explore this thing. You need to tell people to tune in, get on board, and to understand what's going on, because this is the rocks crying out from the earth in this day and time. This is what I believe Yeshua was covertly prophesying about. If we keep our mouths shut, if we don't herald the good news, that the rocks will cry it out, and the rocks are crying it out now, today. We'll be back in just a minute after this word for you, our sponsors, our only sponsors. For the last 50 years, I have had the burden of the prophet Jeremiah. And as his ministry from the Almighty was given to him as a prophet who would tear down, rip out, rip up, tear up, and then to build and to plant. I have been doing my best to tear down all of the pagan traditions that we have inherited through Gentile churchianity, and then to build and to plant in bringing people back to the feast of Yehovah, back to the prophetic shadow pictures of good things to come that the Almighty told the end of time from the very beginning, the very feast that Yeshua went up to Jerusalem and fulfilled, and in the book of Revelation will fulfill in the fall feast of the Lord, as he prepares for his return. Ladies and gentlemen, we are getting the message of the gospel of the kingdom out to the world, and we're doing it by way of broadcast. And what you're watching right now, whenever you're watching it, is because we're continuing to do the work that we were ordained to do. This is the time of the prophet Jeremiah as he reaches into this generation, because it's the word of the Almighty that came to him, to Israel, and now it's coming to you. I need you to stand with us. Help us to get this message out. Do your part. You've got just 2 minutes. That's all you've got. Make your decision now. And thank you for helping. We're back with the continuing saga of Noah's Ark. Ron Wyatt, for 21 days, running through the mountains of Urartu, being held captive by the Kurds. It now makes the news in America, and that is going to open the door so that you, the rest of the people out there, can find out about Noah's Ark. Marinelle, tell us what happened because of that captive situation.
Well, when they were kidnapped, it was him and his group. There were 6 of them, I believe, and it got on the news. So it gave Ron an opportunity when he got home to go on CNN and tell them about Noah's Ark and show the deck timber and these things. It also gave us at home, while they were kidnapped, it gave us a chance to witness on the news, because the news people camped out at our house. There just wasn't a lot of news back then, I guess. But I can see God's purpose in it. Mm-hmm. It got the news to people. But moving.
And so, I mean, you paid a price, as far as your family, all the pressure, yes, the anxiety, there was a price to be paid. But, we also see, sometimes this is the way God works, Yes. He puts us in a vice and squeezes us. So what comes out is His nature, yes, and His goodness and His revelation.
Yes. Yeah, I absolutely believe that. And I'm just very thankful to be able to be a part of all of this. There's nothing that I would take, nothing I would take for it. And I know there's nothing you would take either. So getting back to this, I'll go ahead because there's a few new things that have come along. They built the Visitor Center, and it opened in 1988. And this is the man on the right of Ron, Hassan, became the unofficial keeper of the Ark. And here's a photo of us the second year in 1989. There's the Visitor Center. And so in 1988, on my first trip there, we were with a man by the name of Dr. Nathan Meyer. And Ron had told us to look at the lower end of the Ark for what he believed was slag, or waste product of metallurgy. And Dr. Meyer found this spectacular, it's about this big, and it has positively been identified as having the appearance of slag material from metal production. And here's a picture of what it looks like underneath. And it is a high concentration of manganese. And manganese does not form like this in nature. And so Ron believed that as Noah was probably building the boat, or at some point God instructed him to take this waste product and put it in the hull of the ship because it had to have ballast, and then he had a ready metal supply when he got to where he was going.
Beautiful.
And see that the material up at the top that Dr. Baumgartner had tested earlier, he believed that was slag material or material that was prepared for Noah to bring with him as ballast, but also as a metal supply.
Now this right here, this image we're seeing here, and now I know that Andrew is jumping out of his skin right now because he's got some detail that is so much more than this that we couldn't even imagine. But we're going to save it for a little later, aren't we? Okay, because he won't let me do it. He won't let me do it, Dan. Okay, very now, continue on.
Well, in 1991, in October, Ron decided to do something because he just couldn't do anything and he was frustrated. In this picture right here from 1985, it's showing, this is David Fasold, when he and David did metal readings along this one section up at the front end of the ship. And so Ron got this idea to take shovels and bend their blades over like razors, and then shave. Just shave, very, very lightly, but just smooth it out so you could see the color difference.
Ah, there it is.
With the sun just right.
Yep.
And it's interesting because at the upper end of the ship, everything, all of the fossilized wood is this light color right here. Because it's fossilized with a lot of calcium carbonate, it's the metals from the land above where the ark sits.
Incredible.
And that's up at the front end, so you can see the light color. As you get near
So they
the
scraped all the way down the side, and it exposed the light areas where this petrified lumber was. And in contrast to, again, the mudslide, whatever was
this
around
is
there.
as you get further down the ark, down the 515 feet, it began to be fossilized with the metal, molecules of the metals in the fittings in the ark as they were washed away and into the wood, which is why the deck timber is so dark and so heavy, and the pieces of wood up top are much lighter in color.
I think the deck timber is 17% iron or something. It's a high percent.
It's a high percent.
That's why the weight is 37
Yeah, it is. It's a
pounds.
high percent of iron. And this photo right here, this drawing right here, is just a drawing of what they found. And as you can, if you'll notice that little U-shaped dip, pay attention to that dip because that is where the 1960 expedition had blasted dynamite holes. There's one on this side and on the other side up near the very front of the ship, because we'll have something exciting to show you in a future program.
This was the original that was detailed in Life magazine. They actually, they did a very gentle excavation with dynamite. Oh, okay, great.
Yeah.
Let the Americans loose on this thing.
Hopefully we won't be using dynamite.
Right. Now this next picture is Ron after they have done this, this mini excavation, as we call it. And I love this picture because that's Ron. He's with all the little kids holding their hands,
That is Ron.
Yeah, that's Ron right there. And so going forward, this is a rivet that he found in the side of the ship. And this is what they look like. But in 1991, we had taken a tour group over there, and off to the side of the ark, not actually on it, this was laying there. And Ron was able to pick it up and told D. LeVar, his driver, to put it in his pocket.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, I have not seen this before. This is absolutely fantastic.
It's a fossilized rivet that had fallen off of the ark, and we were able to pick it up and keep it because it was not on the ark.
You can see the depth of the washer. You can see the head of it as it's smashed down and it's splayed out. This had to be done while it was hot.
Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. You know, this is the first time I'm seeing this.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah, I did not see this before.
I'm sorry.
So what you
This
have there,
is-
you have a washer on each end with that metal rod going through, holding the wood together. So that's how that would look. That's why you see the end of that rod there that's been smashed. The edge is smashed when it's hot.
Incredible.
And that right there is showing the other, you see the little green dot, that's where the other U-shaped place is. Both of the dynamite explosions were up near the front on either end. And so that is right where Ron picked it up, right off of that end up there. And here's a picture of it on the site after we had first gotten it.
So this may have been dislodged by the dynamite.
It could
Possibly.
have. It could have.
Okay.
And some of the pieces are missing because we had it tested. But this is the full thing right here.
Oh, beautiful photograph of it.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And here is the lab analysis. And Ron again had it tested at Galbraith, but he also had it tested at another laboratory in Charlotte, or close to Charlotte actually, where they said that it was, it's interesting to note that location 1, presumably fossilized timber, was found to contain much higher carbon than location 2, which was supposed to be fossilized metal. And here is some of the important things to be noted in the analysis. It contained 8.51% aluminum, 1.92% titanium, 10.38% iron, and 0.21% manganese. And what this means is what they told us when they did the analysis at the place near here was that this is an alloy. This is man-made, whatever this is. Even though it's just a trace of it left, this is man-made. And they were quite blown away by it.
Oh, now, I understand it takes quite, at least today, quite a bit of electricity to produce aluminum. Yeah. So whatever their technology was, you know, we can't quite comprehend it. Yeah.
This next thing. This is just a little something I wanted to include because I'm involved.
Okay.
In this.
It's your show, Mary, now. It's your show.
Well, Ron, my second trip out there, I think, Ron had done a core drill into the side, and you can see he's right there at it. And here's a picture of that same core drill hole that we took in 2014. Well, I was very skinny back then, and I took my skinny arm and I stuck it all the way in there, and I pulled out a handful of dirt. And a man that we know who came to visit with us, he took it, and it was a solid rocks. It was like rock. It was fossilized. And he took it and he dissected it. And there was a piece that had hair hanging out, fossilized wood with hair hanging out. So we actually took it to the crime lab in Charlotte. And they looked at it. And there's no need in going into all of that because I don't even know where they all are right now, but I never forgot this one. The man said, "This is not a hair, this is a fiber, and it is a fiber optic type fiber. It is reflecting light. That is light coming through it."
So
And
when they
that
put it under
came
the
out of there.
microscope, put it under the microscope, then the light came through just like a fiber optic cable.
Okay. So
I've
the
never
light
showed
from
this
the
before.
microscope shining through it, then,
Yeah.
well,
So what is that?
Something man-made.
And he knows.
Manna. What is that?
He knows it wasn't something that came that was contamination because it came right out of the solid rock. He saw that for himself.
So it's tested right in the buckle of the Bible Belt, Charlotte, North Carolina,
Yeah.
right where we are right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, as we wind down things, I can't remember what all else. It was hard to narrow down what all to talk about. But Ron eventually, after all of his radar examinations, he made a model, a scale model of what he thought the ark looked like. And this is one of my favorite pictures of him near the very first anchor stone that he saw. And then this is a picture from a few years ago. Hassan, I hadn't seen him in many, many years and got to see him. But this is Ron.
He's getting older there now, isn't he?
Yeah, he's old. He's no longer over the ark site. He's too old now. So, but here's Ron standing up on the hillside overlooking.
That's a visitor center at Noah's Ark, right? Yeah. You know, this is something that American Christians, they just, it's hard to believe. You know, 4-lane highway, visitor center, signs all over the Turkey, the road maps are in Turkey. So many kilometers to Noan Arkki, Noah's big boat. And it's like, you know, we never hear about it here, but it is common knowledge over there.
It is.
I have a coin. This is silver from Armenia. It's Armenian coin, and it's a 500 dram silver, and it has Noan Arkki, Noah's big boat. This is right from that area. So they know it's around. They even have coins minted with this, but we don't hear about it from here.
No, we don't. It's in sort of a difficult location because it's right in that little area of Turkey where you have, help me, Iran, Iraq, Armenia, and then Syria as you get down here. But up,
Iraq.
It's a difficult place, and it's not the best place for them to be promoting tourism. But the tourists come through every single day. Mm-hmm. They do, mm-hmm. And this right here is my favorite picture of Ron. After the kidnapping, the Nashville Magazine wanted to do a story on him, and it was a very, very good story. But they made him dress up like Indiana Jones, and I just want people to know that Ron didn't really dress like this. He dressed more like that. But I do love that picture.
Yeah, he wasn't for show. No, he was for tell the story, tell it honestly, tell it with love, compassion, and if I could absorb anything from him, it would be the love, the tenderness, the compassion. You know, I'm kind of rude. You know, that's that's how I turned out from the womb. But I say that there's not a person in my life who has impacted me anywhere near what Ron Wyatt has. And this ministry and everything that we do in this ministry, I can go right back and say Ron Wyatt was the instigator of these things, and wanting to help get this message out was the reason why all of our productions, everything we did in Israel, the very first A Rude Awakening from Israel was to take people out to the city of Gomorrah. Yeah. Why did I go out there? Because Ron was the one who, that many years ago, in your home, he put this in my hands. This is the same piece. I keep this in my drawer, and even though tens of thousands of people have held this, and I passed it through audiences, and I'm sure that Randall, back many years ago in Dallas, actually handled this very piece right here, because this is such a treasure to me, because this is one of the two things that I was given to know for confirmation that Ron had found the Ark of the Covenant. And when he gave this to me that night, and I said to him, Ron, that's what I prayed for. And working with him for a couple of weeks on the museum and all, and the last night at your house, you invited me to stay at your house. But when Ron brought this out, and I said, that's what I prayed for. He said, I knew that. But it was also the confirmation, the words that he spoke then, I knew he had found the Ark of the Covenant. I knew this was the confirmation, and this is what I'd been waiting for at that time, well over a year. And so that's why this is so precious. And that night, I said, I can't sleep. And I drove through the night, all the way back to Texas that night, and leaving your house at midnight, because there's no way that I can sleep after now knowing the Ark of the Covenant has been confirmed. Mary, now, I know that you've got other details, more stories to tell about the Ark of the Covenant. And I'm thinking that I want to have you back, bring some of Noah's Ark, some of these other artifacts back with you, but I think that we need to do that.
Okay.
We can't do it now, because what we're going to be doing in the very next segment, hopefully next week, then Andrew is going to show us how that we can get involved and actually register to join. You, Randall, are you going, Marinelle? Marinelle's going to be going over to Noah's Ark as well, and a team of people that are going to be assembled from around the world to excavate on this very site. So until then, ladies and gentlemen, until next week, have a good Sabbath. Shabbat Shalom. I'm going to now close in prayer. Yivarechecha Yehovah v'yishmerecha. Yair Yehovah panavelecha v'chunaka. Yisa Yehovah panavelecha v'yisem lecha shalom. B'shem Yeshua HaMashiach Sar Shalom. Yehovah bless you and keep you. Yehovah make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. Yehovah lift up his countenance upon you and give you his peace. In the name of Yeshua, our Messiah, the Prince of Peace. Amen and amen. Shabbat Shalom, Shadu V'Tov. Have a good week, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll see you back here next week for the continuing saga of Noah's Ark. Shalom. Bye-bye.
you.